Have you heard the legend of the Jabberwocky? It is a wonderful tale of heroism, of monsters, of a valiant battle, of good versus evil. Some of you may have heard it, and perhaps some not. But for all of your pleasure now, here it is again. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toes did gyre and gimble in the wave, and all mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the jub bird, and shun the frumious bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and he stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and it burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through. The vorpal blade went snicker snap. He left it dead, and with his head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwocky? Oh, come to my arms, my beamish boy. Oh, rapturous day, callooh, callay. They chortled in their joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toes did gyre and gimble in the wave, and all mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. That was the Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll, as originally written. That was the tale told long ago of the Jabberwocky and his human foe. But I asked myself, then what happened? What comes next? Was there further trials for the boy, or perhaps more battles, further tests? Well, let me tell you the rest of the story, all the real truth henceforth about that boy and that monster he fought, about what really happened. No, not his Instagram feed. About what really happened. What happened indeed? 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toes did gyre and gimble in the wave, and all mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. The boy, he was celebrated. He was a hero. In fact, back to the village, carried on their backs. He was the hero. He had killed the monster dead. So what was he thinking that night when he rested his head? For that night, on his pillow, he was wide awake, with a trembling fear, a violent shiver, and a worrisome shake. For though he had He had slain the Jabberwocky, and he had cut off all its limbs. He had also looked right past it. And he had done the most terrible thing. And as the tale goes, and so the villagers had all said, beware, beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that will bite, the claws that will catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. But he had told his father that he had fought this monster through lakes of fire and ice, and up steep hills and even mountains, and through valleys, not once but twice. And he had narrowly escaped the Jubjub bird with a squawk and a cry. But that bird has no teeth at all. And it can't even fly. He barely had to evade it, really. Perhaps what he did is not what he says. Perhaps he is a hero. Or perhaps a fraud instead. For example, his tail says to shun the frumious Bandersnatch. Indeed. This is hardly very difficult, since it's a type of weed, and it collects in the marshes and in the rivers and in the seas. And it loves to live around the edges where the water and the land meet. And it'll catch you at your feet. Only if you're silly and you step in. Frumious. Indeed. My friends, the chance of death is very slim. So shun it. He did just that. He merely ran the other way, past the mimsy borogoves, also known as caves, great places for hiding, where animals seek shelter. It's often cool and damp inside, away from heat that swelters. And the mome raths, outgrabe? What of them? What does that even mean? In fact, they are the most curious of creatures. They are like magic, never seen. So how can his tale of heroism, how can his story all be true if he merely walking in the forest cuts the Jabberwock in two pieces with the head cut off? 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead. And with the head, he went galumphing back. And that's what he said had happened. And that's what the villagers saw. So that must be true. But he never said out loud. For shame. What I can now tell you, the Jabberwock. The Jabberwock. The jaws that bite. The claws that catch. The Jabberwock, with eyes of flame, that came whiffling through the tulgey wood, burbling as it came. The Jabberwock, the Jabberwock, eats only grass and moss and plants and leaves. The villagers said it has eyes of flame. They are red. This is true, but red raw from allergies, and it snacks on beetroot too. Beetroot. So suddenly we find ourselves here, not afraid, but quite confused. To find that our hero boy, still a killer, but maybe not how we first mused. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker snap. He left it dead, and with its head, he went galumping back. But the Jabberwock was not alone, out wandering the tulgey wood. It was searching for some food. It has a home, a nest of feathers, and a very chirpy brood. Jabberwock 1, 2, 3, 4. Jabberwocky babies. There are so many more than you can count. So many different colors. So many little mouths. All without a mother. So many little eyes watching a silver sword go snicker snack. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through. He had left her dead, and with her head, he had gone galumphing. And now, 50 years or more has passed us by, and the Jabberwock babies, they've all grown up. And they've all had families of their own. Some of the villagers said they could still hear their squawks and cries. But no longer. Vegetarians, they feast on blood and bones. The Jabberwockies, the jaws that bite, the claws to catch. Those Jabberwockies, they now run riot through the Tulgey wood. And hunting is their game. And their eyes are black and dead with grief. And they kill to avenge any human they meet for the death of their Jabberwocky on that fateful day when the hero boy, beaming, took their mother away. So the question is, from what I tell you, what do you now believe is true? Who was friend? And who was foe? And where after all these years, where did the Jabberwockies go? Twas brillig, and the slithy toes did gyre and gimble in the wave, and all mimsy were the borogoves and the moan rats outgrave. The end.